be back into the virtual class again. And I think you would have seen the previous class session, and be on with the lessons, the notes continuously. And even now, if you have doubts, you can ask. No issues with that. Write the notes regularly. These are the things which I want to remind you again and again. And so today, much more interested because the topic is about virtual imagination. We are going to imagine something which we are not seeing directly. Okay, so are you all ready with me? Yes. The topic for today is crystal lattice. But before getting into crystal lattice, we just have to do a small recap of what we have learned in the previous class. Yes, now I think you all are able to recollect what we learned. That is, we learned about solid state. We also learned about the characteristic features of solid and also the classification of solid, right? What are the two types of classification? Yes, they are crystalline solids and amorphous solids. Also, we studied some of the differences between crystalline and amorphous solid. Also, we learned the classification of crystalline solids. How many types are there? Crystalline solids are broadly classified into 4 types. They are ionic solids, metallic solids, covalent solids and molecular solids. To be, molecular solids are further classified into polar molecular, non-polar molecular and hydrogen bonded. So these are the things which we saw in the previous class. Now we have an interesting topic for today, that is crystal lattice. Now when I say crystal lattice, this is completely about imagination. Now crystal lattice is nothing but a regular arrangement, a 3-dimensional arrangement of constituent particles where the particles are regarded as a point. I repeat, it's a regular 3-dimensional arrangement where the constituent particle is regarded as a point. So how we define it? The definition is the regular 3-dimensional arrangement of point in space. The regular 3-dimensional arrangement of point in space. So when I say space, it is a 3-dimensional figure, so everyone have to visualize it. So I hope we can visualize. Now, crystal lattice is being done only by crystalline solid. I can also say crystalline solid can exhibit crystal lattice. Why not amorphous solid? Now, can any one of you guess what could be the reason why an amorphous solid cannot show a crystal lattice? Now again, just recollect what we learned about crystalline solid in the previous class. We learned that crystalline solid have a long range order. That is, an arrangement of particles in a definite order. Each particle layer will be arranged both horizontally and vertically together in the same direction. So what happens in that? It follows a long range order. So when I say long range order, there is a regular geometry. Whenever there is a regular geometry only, this crystal lattice is possible. So thus we conclude that crystal lattice can be exhibited only by crystalline solid. Now here, the important characteristics of a crystal lattice are each point in a lattice is called a lattice point. You can see some bold points in the crystal. So those points are called as lattice points. Each point in a crystal, it can be an atom, it can be an ion or it can be a molecule. So there are so many points in a crystal lattice. Now those points can be an atom, it can be an ion or it can be a molecule also. When we say molecule, it is a group of atoms. Now you can see there are lines which are joining the points. So the lattice points are joined by lines to bring out the geometry. So we need a geometry, a structure for the crystal lattice. So these points are being joined by the lines. So these are the important characteristics of a crystal lattice. So what did we learn? We learnt about the crystal lattice definition and also the important characteristic features of a crystal lattice. We were seeing about crystal lattice, and we also studied that in crystal lattice it can be done only by a crystalline solid. And we also saw the reason why a crystalline solid can show a crystal lattice. Now let me just recollect you again the points of crystal lattice. See, this is not a crystal lattice, it's a small portion of a crystal lattice. When you see here, the points which we were discussing are, each point in a crystal lattice is called as a lattice point. So you can see here some blue color dots. So each blue color dot here, it represents a lattice point. And each point in a crystal, it can be, when I say it's a lattice point, it can be an atom, it can be an ion, or it can be a molecule. When I say molecule, it's a group of atoms. So each point in a crystal lattice is called as a lattice point, and that lattice point can be an atom, it can be an ion, or it can be a molecule. Then what comes next? The geometry of the crystal lattice. What do you mean by geometry? Geometry is nothing but the structure, or you can say the shape. Now how do we get a geometry? When I say it's a three-dimensional space, now all the lattice points are present here and there, right? Now they all have to be connected. When it is present in the space at random positions, you don't get a geometry. So if we want to get a geometry, we need to connect all the points together. So now those points are connected using these lines. So these lines connect the lattice points to give a crystal lattice a definite structure. So these are the three important points of a crystal lattice. Now the next topic which we are going to see is unit cell. So when I say unit cell, unit is 1, right? So in a whole crystal lattice, a smallest portion which when repeated again and again will be given the entire lattice. I take a whole crystal structure, crystal lattice. In a crystal lattice, one small portion is called as a unit cell. So this portion is one of the smallest portion in a crystal lattice. Now this portion, when it keeps on repeating again and again, that will generate the entire lattice. Now this unit cell also has some special features. Now let us see what are those. You can see the dotted lines here. These are the three lines, or you can say three edges, which can be given the alphabets A, B and C. I hope you can see the dotted lines marked A, B and C. So these are the three edges in a unit cell. Also, each of the two lines are being given an angle. There is an angle which is formed between two edges. So you can see alpha, which is formed between B and C, beta, which is formed between A and C, gamma, that is formed between A and B. So there are three important angles which we call it as alpha, beta and gamma. So once again I will repeat, a unit cell is the smallest portion. This unit cell is the smallest portion in the entire lattice. Now this unit cell, once it gets on repeated again and again, that will generate an entire lattice. So these two are the important parameters. So altogether we have 6 parameters for a unit cell. So just recollect what are the 6 parameters. We have 3 edges, that is A, B, C, and also we have 3 angles, that is alpha, beta and gamma. We learned about unit cell. Now we are going to learn about the types of unit cell. 2 important types of unit cell are primitive and centered. In primitive unit cell, the points, that is the constituent particles, are present at the corners of the lattice point. That is, all the corners will be occupied by the constituent particles. In centered unit cell, not only the corners, also there are some other positions where the constituent particles will be occupying. So those are called as centered unit cell. Further, centered unit cells are classified into 3 types. Now what are they? They are body centered, face centered and end centered. I repeat, they are body centered, face centered and end centered. When I say body centered, from the name it is very clear that I have my constituent particles occupying all the corners and at the center, that is the body of the unit cell, center of the unit cell. So in body centered unit cell, my constituent particles will be occupying the corners and at the center position. When we say face centered, the constituent particles will be present at all the corners and at the center of each face. So there are 6 faces. So all the 6 faces, in each face, the center and also the corners of the unit cell. The last one is end centered. In end centered unit cell, the constituent particles will be occupying the corners and the opposite faces. That is, each point will be sharing 2 opposite faces. So these are the classification of the unit cells. So children, we were seeing about the types of unit cell, that is the primitive, the body centered, face centered and end centered also. Now the most important part is we should know how many atoms are contributed to each unit cell. When I say number of atoms which are contributing to one unit cell, we will be able to know the mass of the atom. Now once we know the mass of the atom, it will be easy for us to know the volume. So when we know the mass and the volume, it will be very easy for us to know the, density. So the density of the unit cell can be easily calculated when we know the mass and the volume. So here we are going to study about the calculations how to find out the number of atoms present in a unit cell. Now you can see here, this is absolutely visualization, a 3-dimensional figure, because I told you it's a crystal lattice and it's a unit cell, that is the smallest portion, which is being repeated again and again so that you get the entire lattice. Now I think you can see a crystal lattice here. Now you can see here, this is the first unit cell, this is my second unit cell, this is the third one and this is the fourth one. So front you have 4 unit cell and behind you have 4 more unit cell. Total there are 8 unit cell present in this crystal lattice. Because we have learned a unit cell which is again repeated again and again can make over an entire lattice. So now here is my atom present. Because we know these crystal lattice has got small points which are called as lattice point, and a lattice point is being constituted by a atom, ion or a molecule. So when I say an atom is present here, now this atom is equally shared by 8 other unit cell. So what am I going to say is that a unit cell has got a lattice point, that is an atom, which does not contribute completely to the unit cell. It is being equally shared with 8 other unit cells. So what happens in that case? Only 1/8 of an atom is being contributed to that particular unit cell. How that could happen? Now imagine I am sitting in this room, that is in the center. I am sitting in a room where every room is considered as a unit cell. So the whole building is a lattice and every other room is a unit cell. So what happens? Now if I am going to look at my right corner there, so that is, I have a small ball over there, right? Now that corner is shared by one other room which is present next to this room, and also the room that is side, that is the next room which is towards my right, and I have rooms on my top and I have rooms bottom. So what happens? We can say a single atom is contributing only 1/8. And this atom is equally shared to 8 other corners. So what happens in that case? So when you take a primitive unit cell, 8 into 1 by 8, that is 1 by 8 of an atom is only being shared to 8 other unit cells. So when you do the calculation, you get around 1 atom. Now much more important, to be more specific, you can relate it to two important structures. Out of this, the third one, we normally don't draw. We draw a simple unit cell like this, where you can see these are the lattice points which is being occupied either by an atom or an ion or a molecule. Now these lines are being more specific to give a geometry. So when I say geometry, we should know what is the structure of the unit cell. So to define the shape, the structure and the geometry of the unit cell, we draw a structure of a unit cell like this. Now though we don't say this as an actual structure, this is a structure geometry of a unit cell. Now what about this? Now these are my atoms. Now here I haven't mentioned about the lines. Instead I have drawn the atoms closer together. So this is an open structure where I can see my atoms, how they are linked to each other. Right? This is actually the original structure, but to give this crystal lattice a geometry, we specify the lines. Okay, and this is also a structure which is actually, I'm not so good in drawing. I've done the best to my whatever is possible. So I think children, you can refer your textbook to get a clear picture as well. Right? Now our topic is actually to calculate the number of atoms. So here I can clearly say primitive unit cell can contribute, that is it has only one atom which is present in the unit cell. Now we will go to body center. In body center what happens? Now before we have discussed that in body center unit cell, apart from the 8 corners, so we know there are 8 corners. Apart from 8 corners where atoms are present, there is one more atom which is present in the center of the unit cell. Now as I have told you to visualize before, like I was saying that I am sitting in the center of the room and I can have corners here and there. Now imagine there is a ceiling fan in the center. So now this fan is completely into that particular room. It does not have any other sharing to a room on my left or right or above. So in that case I can say, apart from the corners that are present, I have a sphere, I have a ball that is also, which is also to that particular room. So in that case what happens? 8 into 1 by 8 will be 1 atom plus the 1 atom which is present at the center of the room, or I can say center of a body centered unit cell. So here we will have 1 plus 1 which is 2. So the number of atoms which is present in a body centered unit cell is 2. Now we come to the last one, that is face center. In face center what happens? Apart from the 8 corners, I have my atoms present in each face. Now imagine this is my board. Now if I am going to keep a ball here, now the ball can be equal. Now this wall is actually shared between 2 rooms. I have a room behind this and this is my room, right? So this wall is shared between 2 rooms. So that is what is happening here in face centered unit cell. Here I have 8 atoms, 8 into 1 by 8, that is 1, the corners, and 6 faces are there in a unit cell. So when I say each face has got 1 atom which is shared by the 6 faces, so that will be 3. So total it will be 1 plus 3, that is equal to 4. So I can say my face centered unit cell has 4 atoms. So once again I will say primitive has 1 atom, body centered has 2 atoms, and face centered cubic has got 4 atoms. So this is the calculation. Now to be a part of packing efficiency, we say what is packing efficiency, that is how much I can stuff my things inside. Now you go for a tour, you take your bag, right? Now if you have a single zip, a single open, what do? You stuff your things to the maximum and then you carry your luggage. But in that case, if you have 2-3 openings, zips here and there on your left and right, you try to make sure that you can stuff some more things here and some more things there. So what happens? The packing efficiency becomes more, right? So more the number of atoms that can be contributed to a unit cell, more will be the packing efficiency. So this is most important, which we will be discussing once after you see an animation. That is, an animated video will be played with respect to the calculation of the number of atoms in a unit cell. Now once you see the animated video, please see very keenly, children. Observe what is exactly happening, because as I told you before, this lesson is completely visualization. You cannot bring a three-dimensional figure in front of you. So what happens? Just close your eyes. Once you see the video, pause it, close your eyes, imagine yourself with a three-dimensional figure where my balls and spheres are present. How do they contribute? So once you see the video, then relate it with again the figures in the class, right? Once after that, we will be also learning about the packing, how this unit cell are being packed, the spheres or atoms are being packed, right? So after that, I'll meet you again. Okay, now you all are ready to see the video. Calculations of number of particles in a unit cell. A crystal lattice is made up of a very large number of unit cells. Each unit cell is touching a number of other unit cells. In a unit cell, every lattice point is occupied by one constituent particle. Thus, a constituent particle present at the lattice point may be shared by a number of unit cells. Let us now understand the contribution of a particle in a lattice point. A corner atom is shared by equally 8 unit cells. 4 unit cells are present at the lower layer and 4 unit cells are present at the upper layer. Therefore, each corner atom contributes only 1/8 atom to a particular unit cell. In a face-centered atom, it is shared equally between 2 unit cells having a common face. An atom present at the center of the face of a unit cell contributes half atom to each unit cell. In a body-centered atom, it is not shared by any adjacent unit cell in a crystal lattice. Therefore, it contributes fully to a unit cell. Calculation of number of atoms per unit cell in primitive cubic unit cell. In simple cubic unit cell, there are 8 corners in a cube. There is 1 atom at each corner of the cube. Since each corner atom is shared equally by 8 unit cells, hence each corner atom contributes 1/8 atom to each unit cell. Number of atoms in one simple cubic unit cell is equal to 8 into 1/8, which is equal to 1 atom. A simple cubic unit cell contains 1 atom. Calculation in a body-centered cubic unit cell. In a body-centered unit cell, there are 8 atoms at each corner positions and 1 atom at its body center. As each atom at the corner position contributes 1/8 to the unit cell, the contribution of those 8 corner atoms to the unit cell is 1 atom.
The atom at the center of the unit cell is not shared by any other unit cell. Thus, its contribution to its unit cell is whole. Hence, the number of atoms per body-centered unit cell is 1 plus 1 equals 2. 8 corner atoms into 1 by 8 is equal to 1 atom. 1 body-centered atom is equal to 1 into 1 equals to 1 atom. Therefore, the number of atoms per unit cell is equal to 2 atoms. Face-centered cubic unit cell. In a face-centered cubic unit cell, there are 8 atoms at the corner positions and 1 atom at the center of every face of the cube. As each atom at the corner position contributes 1 by 8 to the unit cell, the contribution of these 8 corner atoms to the unit cell is 1 atom. Each atom at the face center is shared between 2 adjacent unit cells. Thus, the contribution of 6 such face center atoms to the unit cell is 6 into half, which is equal to 3. Therefore, the total number of atoms per face centered unit cell is 1 plus 3 equals to 4. 8 corner atoms into 1 by 8, which is equal to 1 atom. 6 face-centered atoms into half atom per unit cell is equal to 6 into half, which is equal to 3 atoms. Therefore, total number of atoms per unit cell is equal to 4 atoms. The face-centered cubic unit cell contains 4 atoms of an element.
Yes, children. Now I think you saw the video in which we are able to calculate the number of atoms present in primitive, also in body-centered and in face-centered. Right? So once we know the number of atoms, as I told you before, we will be able to calculate the volume, density, mass and so on. Right? So now there is going to be another video for you which is focusing on the arrangement of the spheres. See, we know crystal lattice is there. There are atoms present. It can be ions or molecules. Again, now how are these molecules or atoms or ions arranged? We should know, because this is a solid, there should be a definite arrangement. There should be a regular pattern. So what type of arrangement do they follow? We will be seeing in the forthcoming video. Now that video will give you a picture about the arrangement of atoms or the arrangement of spheres in different layers in 1 dimension, in 2 dimension and also in 3 dimension. And when you are seeing the video, please make sure that you note each and every point very carefully, because the coordination number is important, how the pattern is placed, how the layer is placed one above the other, each and everything plays a very important role. Also, you will be seeing in the video about voids. Voids are nothing but empty spaces. If you just recollect what we learned in the first class, like solids are closely packed, there is only small spaces between each sphere. That is, the number of empty spaces are very less. So as I told you, we are focusing on empty spaces which are called as void, V-O-I-D. So V-O-I-D means void. So that you should definitely make a note of it. Please make sure that you see the video and I'll be just back after the video. Okay children, thank you so much. Now I want everybody to take notes when you are watching the video. Thank you.
The 3-dimensional modes of packing can be easily understood by dividing the whole process into 3 steps. Close packing of spheres in 1 dimension. In one dimension close packing, there is just one way of arranging the spheres. Here, the spheres are arranged in a row touching one another. As a result, each sphere will be in contact with two neighboring spheres. Thus, in one-dimensional close packing, the coordination number is 2. Close packing of spheres in two dimension. Close packing structures in two dimension can be generated by stacking rows of one-dimensionally closed packed spheres one above the other. This can be done in two ways: square close packing and hexagonal close packing. Square close packing. In this packing, the second row of spheres is placed in contact with the first row in such a way that the spheres of the second row are placed exactly above the spheres of first row. In such an arrangement, the spheres are aligned horizontally and vertically such that each sphere is in contact with 4 other spheres. So the coordination number is 4. If the first row of arrangement is called A type, and if we place the same type of arrangement again, it is also called A type. If we keep on placing such rows one above the other, such an arrangement is called AAA type of arrangement or square packing. Hexagonal close packing. In this type of packing of spheres, the second row of spheres is placed in a staggered manner such that the spheres fit in the depressions of the first row. If we call the first row as A type, the second row is different from the first row, so we call it B type. Now if we place the third row above the second row, it is clear that the third row is aligned with those of the first layer. Each sphere is in contact with 6 other spheres, so the coordination number is 6. Similarly, on placing the 4th layer of the spheres, we will observe the 4th row of spheres are aligned similar to the second row of spheres. Hence, this type of arrangement is called ABAB type or hexagonal close packing. Now, what are these empty spaces? If we compare square close packing with hexagonal close packing, we will observe that empty spaces are less in hexagonal than compared into square close packing. Now, what are these empty spaces and what role do they play in packing efficiency? The empty spaces between the spheres are called voids. These voids are responsible for decreasing the packing efficiency of a solid crystal. More the number of voids, less will be the packing efficiency of the crystal. Now you must be wondering, what is packing efficiency? We will be discussing in the later part of the section. Now, let us study about close packing in 3 dimension. 3-dimensional close packing from 2-dimensional square closed packed layers. This type of packing is obtained by placing 2-dimensional close packed layer above the first one such that the spheres of the second layer are exactly above the spheres of the first layer. In this arrangement, the spheres of both the layers are perfectly aligned horizontally and vertically. On arranging layers one after the other in this pattern, we will observe that each sphere is in contact with 6 other spheres, 4 from the same layer, 1 from the layer above, and 1 from the layer below. So, the coordination number is 6. If we call the first layer as A type, since all the layers are of same type, we can call this arrangement as AAA type of arrangement. On observing carefully, we will find that this arrangement has generated a simple cubic lattice and its unit cell is primitive cubic unit cell. Dimensional close packing from 2-dimensional hexagonal close packed layers. This is obtained by placing 2-dimensional hexagonal structure of one layer above the other, placing the second layer over the first layer. And if you notice, this layer has triangular voids. The triangular voids are seen now. Place a similar closed packed layer in such a way that the spheres of the second layer are placed in the depressions of the first layer. As the second layer is aligned differently, we call this layer as B type. On observing, we will notice that not all the triangular voids of the first layer are covered by the spheres of the second layer. This gives rise to a different arrangement and different voids. Voids. There are 2 types of voids: tetrahedron voids denoted by T, octahedron voids denoted by O. Let us study how these voids are formed. When we place the closed packed layer above the depressions of the first layer, we will notice that at some place the triangular voids of the first layer are being covered by the spheres of the second layer. At such places, a type of void is formed. This type of void is known as tetrahedral void T, since a tetrahedron is formed by joining the centers of surrounding spheres, 4 spheres. While at other places, we will notice that the triangular voids of the first layer coincides with the triangular voids of the second layer, such that the triangular shapes do not overlap. At such places, another type of void is formed. This void is called octahedral void O, since an octahedron is formed by joining the centers of 6 surrounding spheres. Now, in case we need to calculate the tetrahedral and octahedral voids in a crystal structure, then just knowing the number of spheres will serve the purpose. Suppose there are n spheres in the crystal structure, then the number of octahedral voids generated is equal to n. The number of tetrahedral voids generated is equal to 2n. Placing the third layer over second layer. Now let us place third layer over the second layer. Stacking of third layer over the second layer can be done in 2 ways. First, by covering tetrahedral voids. Second, by covering octahedral voids. By covering tetrahedral voids. The tetrahedral voids of the second layer can be covered by placing the sphere of the third layer over them. On doing so, the spheres of the third layer will get exactly aligned with the spheres of the first layer. So, if we can call the first layer as A type, second layer as B type, then the third layer will also be A type. As the pattern of spheres are repeated alternately in other layers, we call this pattern as ABAB pattern, and the structure is called hexagonal closed packed or HCP structure. In this type of structure, each sphere is in contact with 12 other spheres, 6 from the same layer and 3 from the bottom layer and 3 from the top layer. Hence, the coordination number is 12. Covering octahedral voids. The octahedral voids of the second layer is covered by placing the spheres of the third layer over them. On doing so, the spheres of the third layer are not aligned either to the sphere of the first layer or to the second layer. So, we call the first layer as A type and the second layer as B type, then this third layer will be called C type. Now, if we place the spheres of fourth layer on the octahedral voids of the third layer, then the spheres get aligned with the spheres of the first layer. Thus, this pattern is known as ABC pattern, and the structure formed is called cubic close packed CCP or face centered cubic FCC structure. In this type of structure, each sphere is in contact with 12 other spheres, 6 from the same layer, 3 from the bottom layer and 3 from the top layer. Hence, coordination number is 12.
Yes children, I think you have seen the video and you are able to understand what are the different types of arrangement. That is, you have square close packing, hexagonal close packing, that is in 1 dimension, 2 dimension and 3 dimension. So depending on the pattern of arrangement, the coordination number also varies and the type of arrangement is also different. And when you were seeing the video, I think some of you would have noticed about voids. I hope everyone would have got it. Voids are nothing but the empty spaces. But as I said before, voids plays a very important role in the packing efficiency. To be more clear, I'll put in these words like, if voids are less, the packing efficiency of the solid is more. That is, it's good. That is, whenever there is less spaces, it means there are more number of atoms. See, in the previous video, we were seeing about the number of atoms in a unit cell. And I told you in FCC, the packing efficiency is very good. It's just because there are more number of atoms in a unit cell. Similarly, when there is less number of voids and more number of atoms, I would say the packing efficiency is very good. Right? So, these were the dimensions that you saw. Now, the calculation of the octahedral and tetrahedral voids. As we know, in a unit cell, there are atoms present on the lattice points. So, when you get the number of atoms in a unit cell, say the number of closed packed spheres is equal to n. If n spheres are present, then the number of octahedral voids will be equal to n. That is, the number of octahedral voids will be equal to n. So, what will be the number of tetrahedral voids? That is twice n, that is 2 times of n. So, I repeat again, if the number of spheres is equal to n in a closed packed structure, the number of octahedral voids will be n and the number of tetrahedral voids will be 2n. twice the time of n, right? So now what is the use of this octahedral and tetrahedral voids? Now the fraction, that is whatever is the number that we get for an octahedral and tetrahedral voids in a unit crystal depends on the chemical formula of the compound. I will say again, the chemical formula of the compound and the fraction of the octahedral and tetrahedral voids are interdependent, right? So now there is a question given in your textbook. You can see now a compound is formed by two elements X and Y. Atoms of the element Y, that is anions, make CCP, cubic close packing, and those of the element X as cations occupy all the octahedral voids. What is the formula of the compound? So this is a question given to you. Now as per the question, the CCP lattice is formed by element Y. So Y is an anion and X is a cation. When I say cation and anion, you take any example like sodium chloride, NaCl. In this, sodium will act as cation and chloride ion will act as an anion. So that's what they are saying here. In a CCP lattice, element Y, that is anion, is occupying the CCP lattice. Number of octahedral voids will be equal to number of atoms. That is what we saw in the video. So now, number of atoms will be what? Will be same as the element Y. Now what is X there? X is equal to the number of octahedral voids. All the octahedral voids are occupied by element X. That is what is given to you in the question. All the octahedral voids are occupied by X. So Y is occupying the CCP lattice, which will be equal to N, that is number of octahedral voids. All the octahedral voids are occupied by X. So what happens? X will be equal to Y. So what will be the ratio here? X is to Y. That is 1:1. So the formula of the compound will be XY. This is how we will find out the formula of the compound using the tetrahedral and the octahedral voids. Okay. Now there will be a question given to you which you have to do it in your notebook. Okay children. Now the next topic is the packing efficiency, which we will see now.
Packing efficiency in crystals. The particles such as atoms, ions, molecules are arranged in different types of packing. In each type of packing, there is always some vacant space in between the constituent particles in the form of voids. We know there are two types of voids, tetrahedral voids and octahedral voids. In a packing, only a total available space is occupied by the constituent particle. The percentage of the total space filled by the particles is called packing efficiency. Different packing arrangements have different packing efficiency. Now let us calculate the packing efficiency in different arrangement. Packing efficiency in simple cubic lattice. In simple cubic lattice, the 8 atoms or sphere occupy the corner positions. Therefore, the particles are in contact with one another along the edge. The number of atoms per unit cell in simple cube is 1. Each atom is considered as one sphere. Let A be the edge length of the unit cell and R be the radius of the sphere. Volume of one atom or one sphere is equal to 4/3 pi r cube. The spheres of the corner are touching each other
Then we have edge length A equal to 2R. The volume of the cubic unit cell is equal to A cube, which is 2R cube, that is 8R cube. So the packing efficiency in a simple cubic lattice is given by volume of one atom by volume of cubic unit cell into 100%. By substituting the values, we get 4 by 3 pi r cube divided by 8 r cube into 100, which is equal to pi by 6 into 100. Once solving, we get 52.36% or 52.4%. The vacant space available in simple cube is equal to 100 minus 52.4%, that is 47.6%. Packing efficiency in HCP and CCP structures. Face-centered cubic unit cell. Let us calculate the efficiency of packing in CCP structures. In this type of arrangement, you can see the arrangement, children. The particles are touching one another along the face diagonally. Let the edge length of the unit cell be A and the radius of the sphere be R and the face diagonal be B. AC is equal to B is equal to 4R. Let us calculate edge length A by applying Pythagoras theorem. In triangle ABC, AC square is equal to BC square plus AB square. So B square is equal to A square plus A square. B square is equal to 2A. Therefore, B is equal to square root of 2A, that is 4R. So A is given by 4R by square root of 2. That is 2 square root of 2R. Volume of the cubic unit cell is equal to A cube, which is equal to 2 square root of 2R the whole cube. We know that in each unit cell in CCP or FCC have 4 spheres or atoms. Volume of the 4 spheres is equal to 4 into 4 by 3 pi r cube. That is 16 by 3 pi r cube. So, the packing efficiency will be volume occupied by 4 spheres in the unit cell divided by volume of the unit cell into 100. By substituting the values, 16 by 3 pi r cube divided by 2 square root of 2r the whole cube into 100, which is equal to once you substitute and do the calculation, we will be getting the answer as 74%. So HCP or CCP has a packing efficiency of 74%. Packing efficiency in body-centered cubic structures. In a BCC structure, there is a particle at the center of the unit cell, in addition to the particles at the corners. Thus, in a BCC structure,
there are three spheres in contact with each other along the body diagonal. Let A be the edge length of the cube and R be the radius of the sphere. The body diagonal AF is equal to C and the face diagonal FD is equal to B. Then AF is equal to C is equal to 4R. Now let us calculate the body diagonal C and face diagonal B. Using these values, we can calculate A. Consider the triangle EFD by using Pythagoras theorem. FD square is equal to EF square plus ED square. So B square is equal to A square plus A square, which is equal to 2A square. So B will be equal to square root of 2A. In triangle AFD, AF square is equal to AD square plus FD square. C square is equal to A square plus B square. By substituting the value of B, we get C square equal to A square plus 2A square, that is 3A square. So C will be equal to square root of 3A. C is a body diagonal. So C is equal to 4R. By substituting the value, we get C equal to square root of 3A, which is equal to 4R. So A will be equal to 4R by square root of 3. Volume of the unit cell is equal to A cube, which is 4R by square root of 3, the whole cube. In a body-centered cubic unit cell, the number of particles per unit cell is 2 atoms. Each atom is considered as one sphere. The volume of the 2 atoms is equal to 2 into 4 by 3 pi r cube, which is 8 by 3 pi r cube. So now the packing efficiency is equal to volume occupied by 2 spheres in a unit cell divided by volume of the unit cell into 100. By substituting the values, 8 by 3 pi r cube divided by 64 by 3 square root of 3 r cube into 100, we get an answer 68%. So packing efficiency in BCC is 68%. In a body-centered cubic unit cell, 68% of unit cell is occupied by atoms and the rest 32% is plain empty space.
I think you saw the video and you came to know about the packing efficiency. Hope you could relate with your mathematical formulas as well. So now you got packing efficiency for 3 different types of unit cell, right? And now we came to know that when the packing efficiency is higher, the structure is more efficient for its packing. That is, it's a more perfect crystal, right? Now using that packing efficiency, and I told you calculating the number of atoms in a unit cell, we are going to do some problems again. I have already told you, now this lesson and the first 4 chapters are mostly involved with problems. I know when there is a problem, definitely there is going to be a solution for it as well. And I want you all to do the problems then and there, because don't just keep things for tomorrow, right? Because whenever somebody says, I shall do it tomorrow, I shall do it tomorrow, only lazy people will give excuses. And I know all my children are very smart, very energetic. Am I right, children? Because you know, we learn only one subject in a day. I hope you all are watching movies, right? Let me just take some time in the middle of the topic. Please excuse me. And we used to watch movies in Amazon Prime and Hotstar or Disney Hotstar upgraded version. And what we do is, I do it, okay. And what we do is, we normally see a movie, maybe for 2 hours we'll not be able to see continuously. So we used to see for 45 minutes to 1 hour, we make a pause, maybe next day or maybe 1 or 2 days later, we again resume it. I do that. I don't know how many of you do it, because I don't see movies often in television, but I of course see in my mobile. I know that's not good, and I don't advise that for you as well, children. Do not look into movies, especially now electronic gadgets are blessings for you. So take those gadgets for a positive purpose, do the problems, because problems has got solutions as well, and when you explore it more, and you will get more solutions for it. Okay, so let us not waste our time. After seeing the video, we are going to get back into our class for a small problem, right? And what is that problem? It's about calculating density of the unit cell. Now from lower classes we have studied density is mass by volume and all those stuffs, right? And I told you before, calculating the number of atoms will help us to find out the mass of the atom. And once you know the mass of the atom, it will be easy for you to calculate the volume. So when you know the volume, you can calculate the density. Now here is a derivation. I would not say derivations, because physics you do lengthy derivation. Maths you do Pythagoras theorem and all those stuffs. I know all those are a little bit difficult, right? This is quite easy, just 4 steps to remember. Please just follow what I am saying. Okay. So first we have edge of the unit cell. Edge, I know how many edges are there, the corners. So those are regarded as A. Volume of the unit cell will be what? A cube. Right. Mass of the unit cell, the mass of the whole entire unit cell will be number of atoms in a unit cell into mass of each atom. Now this is what we have done in the first video. We calculated the number of atoms. You remember, for BCC it is 2, for FCC it is 4. Exactly. So that number of atoms into the mass of each atom. Now how can we find out the mass of atom in a cell? By dividing the molar mass by the Avogadro number. I think this you have studied in your 10th standard, if I am not wrong, mole concept chapter, which was the most haunting chapter for most of us, right? So we will be calculating this using the molar mass divided by the Avogadro number. So once you get the mass of an atom in a unit cell, so what is density now? Density is mass by volume. So in the mass of the unit cell place, I put Z into M. Z into M by A cube. Now what is my M? My M is molar mass by Avogadro number. So what do I get here? Z into capital M, that is molar mass, divided by volume into Avogadro number. So the formula is very important. You have 5 important parameters. What are those? We have density of the unit cell, we have the number of atoms in a unit cell, we have molar mass, we have volume and Avogadro number. So once you get these 5 parameters, what is important? If any 4 is given to us, we will be knowing to calculate the 5th one. But I know my children are very smart. Don't think they will ask you to calculate NA, because NA by default it is 6.022 into 10 raised to 23. So will never be asked for NA. Instead, you may be asked to find out Z, M, A cube and D. Right. So solving more problems in the next class. So this class I'll be giving you a problem on the voids, and the next class I'll be starting with I'll do 1-2 problems in the class for you. Then we will continue with our the most important topic in this chapter, that is imperfection in solids, something about defects. So that is the next topic which we are going to see. I'm missing you all children, eagerly waiting to see you all very soon. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.